Chair calls to order public hearing for Bill 25-004, Water and Sewer Rate Revisions, fiscal year 26, fiscal year 30. I want to welcome Mr. Semek, Mr. Sandless, and Mr. Ryle from Arcadis, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening, Council President Vincenti and County Council members. My name is Joe Semek. I'm Director of Public Works for Harford County. The county charter has charged the Department of Public Works with the design, construction, operation, and maintenance of water supply treatment and distribution, as well as sewage collection and treatment facilities. With that charge comes the responsibility to maintain long-term financial resiliency to continue to meet the operating and capital needs of Harford County's water and sewer system. I'm joined by Robert Ryle, Vice President of Arcadis, our consultant who is retained to perform our water and sewer cost of service and rate study. Mr. Ryle will present their findings and recommendations. Robert?
Great, thank you. Great, thank you, Joe. I'd also like to thank the council for your time this evening. Again, my name is Robert Ryle. I'm with the firm Arcadis. I have been assisting water and sewer utilities around the country with a variety of financial issues, including rates. I've been doing this line of work for about 25 years. I'd also like to just thank the county staff and your leadership. They've been very instrumental in this study, very supportive and very helpful. So our agenda for this evening, obviously introductions, but I want to share the objectives of this study as well as the methodology that we have used. Share with you some of the financial and rate history of the water and sewer system, a summary of the results of our 5-year financial plan, and then obviously the proposed rates, how those rates compare, and how these proposed rates will impact the customers of Harford County. So the objective of our study is first to establish the next 5-year schedule of rates. So the county has established a precedence where you adopt a schedule of 5 years of rates, and you have done that for the past 10 years. And the last set of rates were enacted in July of 2024. So we have been charged with developing the rates that would go into effect in July of this year, and then the rates for the next 5 years through 2030. Part of our objective as well is to ensure that the revenues are meeting the financial needs of the water and sewer system, both the operating needs as well as the capital needs of the system. We also want to ensure that the rates are based on what we call cost of service. This is an industry approach to setting rates, and ensures that the rates are set fairly and appropriately. And your last cost of service analysis was completed in 2016. So it's been 9 years. It's appropriate to revisit the cost of service. And along with cost of services is reviewing the water and sewer rate elements, ensuring that the water rates and the sewer rates are both recovering their respective costs, as well as that the fixed charges and the volumetric charges of the system also recovering their respective costs. So I'll just share with you the methodology that we have undertaken. This is a typical methodology for a rate study. It's the methodology that we've used for this study. But the first step is determining the revenue requirements. It's basically essentially a financial planning step where we're looking at how much revenue does the water and sewer system need to generate each year of our 5-year projection. We next evaluate the cost of service, which is taking this revenue and it's allocating it to the different portions of the system: water, sewer, fixed charge, volumetric charge, and so forth. And we use this information to design the rates and fees that would be enacted to your customers, and we look at how that would impact the customers as part of designing those rates and fees. So there's two leading manuals of practice. The first pertains to water rates. It's known as the M1 Manual, Principles of Water Rates, Fees, and Charges. This is published by the American Water Works Association, and it's essentially the guiding principle for establishing water rates and the cost of service approach that is recommended for establishing those water rates. Very similarly is the Manual of Practice number 27, which is published by the Water Environment Federation. Very similar manual, but it focuses on wastewater rates and establishing rates for wastewater systems. So I want to share a little bit of the financial and rate history of the county. So the figure that I'm sharing goes back, it starts in 2008. So we've gone back 17 years. And each of the bars that you see is the operating requirements of the water and utility system. The darker colored blue is the operation and maintenance costs, and the lighter colored blue is the capital reinvestment need. And the green line that you see is the actual revenues that were generated from the water and sewer utility, primarily through user rates. And what you can see is that between 2008 and about 2015, the system was actually under-recovering, right? The revenues of the system weren't even recovering enough, they weren't generating enough revenue to even cover the operation and maintenance cost. And as a result, right, the county enacted two very large rate increases in 2016 and 2017, and I'll show those on my next slide. And you can see where that green line increases. And today, and over the past several years, right, you've established a very healthy utility that's generating revenue to cover both the operating costs as well as the capital reinvestment needs. And so that was one of the aims of the rates that we're recommending, is we want to maintain this financial resiliency. We want to maintain the financial health of the water and sewer utility. So as I mentioned previously, these are the rate increases, the water and sewer rate increases for each year going back to 2008. Between 2008 and 2015 was really a period of kind of limited rate planning. The average rate increase was about 2.25% per year. There was one year when there was no rate increase. As I mentioned, the revenues, they were not meeting the needs of the system. And as a result of that, the county went through a period of what I call rate correction, right? There were two very large rate increases in excess of 25% each year. And since that time, you all have done a very good job of maintaining, right, the financial health of the utility, maintaining regular rate increases, which have averaged over the past 8 years 4.5% a year. And what we're proposing, which you can see with the blue bars, is an average increase of 4.2% per year over the next 5 years, again, in order to maintain the financial health that you all established in 2016 and 2017. So I just want to briefly summarize the 5-year plan. Again, as I've mentioned, the average increase is 4.2% per year, both water and sewer combined. The bars in this slide are the operating requirements of the system that we have forecasted. And the green line is the revenue stream that we're forecasting, which includes this 4.2% a year increase. And as I think you can see, what we're working to achieve is revenues that are sufficient to meet, again, the annual operating requirements of the water and sewer system. So I want to present the proposed rates. So these are the water rates that we're proposing. This table shows both the current rates that are currently in effect, as well as the rates that we are proposing over the next 5 years, 2026 through 2030. We're showing both the fixed charges, right? The fixed charge is a quarterly charge. Your customers are mainly billed quarterly. And the fixed charge is based off of a customer's meter size, 5/8 inch meter up to, well, we have rates for a 12-inch meter, but you actually don't have any 12-inch meter customers. You do have a couple of 10-inch meter customers. And then the volumetric rates, right, which is a rate which is charged per 1,000 gallons. And so that portion of the bill would vary based off of how much water a customer uses. These rates are also presented in the bill that I understand that was previously provided, 25-4. And very similarly is a summary of the sewer rates that are being proposed. Again, we're showing the current sewer rates, both the fixed charges, the fixed quarterly charges, as well as the volumetric charges for sewer service, both the current rates and then each of the next 5 years. Again, these rates are also provided in the same bill 25-4. So how will these rates impact a typical customer of Harford County? Well, a typical customer of the county would be a residential customer. That customer would, again, be billed quarterly. They would have a 5/8" meter. That's the most predominant meter size in the system. The typical customer uses 12,000 gallons of water per quarter. And they're currently charged $243.63 per quarter. So with the proposed rates, we would see a 4.2% increase each year over the next 5 years. In terms of a dollar magnitude, that increase in July of this year would be $10.23 again per quarter, each 3-month period. In July of 2029, which is when the last set of rates as part of this 5-year schedule of rates would go into effect, that percentage increase, 4.1% in this case, but it would be an $11.73 increase in each quarterly bill. So we're also presenting this same information on a monthly basis. Even though your customers are billed quarterly, I think it is important to look at things on a monthly basis. I know myself and many people really evaluate our costs, and we pay bills, and we do things on a monthly basis. So again, monthly, same percentage increase, a 4.2% increase each year. But the monthly increase that would go into effect in July of this year is $3.41 per month. And in July of 2029, again, when the last set of rates in this schedule would be enacted, that increase per month would be $3.91. I also want to mention, I think this is timely, but I just want to read a couple of excerpts from a study. This actually came out the end of last week, and I think it may help to provide a perspective of what we're seeing in the water and sewer industry. But we're seeing rates honestly rising very rapidly as costs have increased. And this was an article that came out. This was Fox Business News, and this article was published on April 11th. And so just a couple of things that are mentioned here, and I can certainly send a copy of this as something you're interested in. But it says costs for utilities, such as water and sewer service, have increased at more than twice the rate of overall customer prices over the past year, with the median monthly water and sewer utility payment rising 7.1% year over year, March 2024 to March of 2025. The article also goes on to say that the Mid-Atlantic region saw the greatest increase, with water and sewer prices, meaning rates, rising 9.5% year over year, again, March of 24 to March of this year. So hopefully that information is helpful, but just to give a perspective of what's going on. I know utilities that I'm working with, we are seeing rate increases in excess of 4.2% is very common. So just some water facts. So under the proposed 2026 rates, the cost of both water and sewer service would be approximately 2 cents per gallon. That results in a daily cost of water and sewer service of $2.85. The cost of a 10-minute shower would be 45 cents. The cost of a load of laundry, 41 cents. Comparing that with other goods that we regularly purchase on a per gallon basis, we can see the price of milk, the price of gasoline, as well as the typical price of bottled water. So I think that the services that you're providing, which, by the way, you're going to deliver the water and you're going to take the sewer away, I think looking at it from this perspective, it's a very competitive, the service that you're providing. We also have the cost of other utility services. Again, the monthly water and sewer bill on a monthly basis would be $84.62 in July, that includes the 4.2% increase, compared to an average monthly electric bill of $135, internet bill $87, monthly cell phone bill $141. So we've also completed a comparison, right? We wanted to see how Harford County's typical bill for water and sewer service, which is about $244 currently per quarter. How does that compare with other water and sewer service providers in the region? And that's what we are showing here. The blue portion of this figure is the water portion of the bill, the green is the sewer portion. But on average, right, other service providers are charging, I think that's $295 per quarter. And as you can see, right, you all are very competitive when compared with other service providers in the region. And so, in conclusion, in summary, the proposed rate adjustments, right, we're intending to maintain the financial stability that the county has established. The proposed rates will maintain the financial stability of the water and sewer system. It will fund both the operating and the capital needs of the system. It avoids one-time large increases like you saw in 2026 and 2027. We have aligned the cost of service, and I think we also see that the rates that you're charging are competitive, right, when we compare that with other water and sewer service providers in the region. And with that, that concludes my presentation.
Yes. So just want to remind everyone that the Water and Sewer Fund is an enterprise fund. It is completely dependent upon the revenues generated by the users of the Water and Sewer Fund, and there is no subsidies in either direction from, say, the general fund to the Water and Sewer Fund. So whereas the general fund pays for schools and law enforcement and fire and all of those things and is largely paid for with property taxes and income tax, the Water and Sewer Fund, operating those water treatment plants, wastewater plants, all the pipes and the like, are all maintained by these rates, as well as other assorted fees and the like. And so there's no borrowing or monies that move really between each of the different funds. Do want to just go back to that one slide where we do talk about the history, because this was right around the time where I joined Harford County in 2015, 2016, when we did have to take that very hard lift. It was not an easy vote on the council's part, it was not an easy part on the administration's part, but we were in an environment where really for 20 years we didn't significantly change our rates. They were linked to CPI, and that was really much during a very low inflationary period. And as you can see from that chart, we were actually hemorrhaging money. We weren't even covering our operating costs, let alone putting aside money for capital. We largely did correct that, and then we've been able to maintain it over the past several years. And this is certainly a big point that I always make when I'm dealing with the rating agencies as part of our annual credit rating agency, is that I think we do this right. We look at it on a 5-year basis. We do the proper studies. We align the revenues with the expenditures, and then we adopt the rates, and in this case propose to adopt the rates on this 5-year span, which gives us both planning certainty on the administration side, but I think also gives our customers some sense of stability and certainty as far as their own budgeting. So we'll note that these the budgets and these revenues that we have here now have influenced greatly our proposed budget, which of course came over today to the council, which includes the 3% COLA and the merit increase for our water and sewer workers, just as it does for all of our other workers. Of course, in this case, it's funded with these revenues, but also our capital. And this is a place where the county has a maturing system, and for a long time we were kind of building out the system, but now we're kind of maintaining the system, and we maintain the systems largely with these operating revenues, and we're putting just shy of about $35 million, within the capital projects as part of the fiscal year 26 program, and almost entirely funded with cash from these water and sewer revenues. One of the big things that we are attempting to do with this new study is to shift away from any type of debt financing and moving more into PAYGO financing. I just happened to look today at, because of all the turmoil in the market, you may recall that a few months ago we sold our bonds for 3.49. Right now, 20-year AAA bonds are selling for 4.1. So I think by being able to reinvest, keep on top of our infrastructure so that we don't have those massive water leaks and busted pipes and contamination and all the other things, that we continue to invest on both the operating side and the capital side. And by having the proper revenues in place, I think it will enable us to do that. And I think we're able to do so in a way that is relatively modest as far as the overall increase.
Joe, do you have anything to add?
No, I do not. They did a great job of, I think, explaining the very complicated process of what I hope in a very simple and understandable way. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
So, as you know, in 2014, when you and Mr. Sandless came in with the Glassman administration, I was elected to the council. So I was a part of that process when we did the very hard lift of raising the water and sewer rates. And as you said, it had been 20 years since that had been looked at, which made no sense to any of us. And if I remember correctly, and Mr. Sanders, you can correct me, we were sitting at somewhere around a $6 million fund balance?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, we were hemorrhaging, funds. I think we were spending about $6 million more than we were bringing in, and we only had about a year or two to act. And if we wouldn't have acted as quickly as we did, we would have had to start borrowing money for operating, which is something as a county government we never tried to do.
No, that's right. And if I remember correctly, it was about a $6 million fund balance. And then I want to thank you, you and Steve as well, for coming over, and Bill Patine for coming over and walking me through the first draft of the legislation. And then have you had an opportunity to talk to council members since then? Any of you?
I personally have not. I know we've made ourselves available. But I know that Mr. Overbay has been in contact with them kind of throughout the process. Though.
Okay. So I'd asked a couple of questions, and you guys were great in getting the information back. I asked how many customers we had, and I just verified that again yesterday with the auditors. It's 45,000 residential and 2,133 commercial. So as I look at that, and I look at the water rates, and I tried, Joe, you could probably answer this better than anybody, the 1-inch line and above. Where does that go? Is that residential?
Primarily as commercial.
Okay, so
There are
that's
very
commercial.
few residentials that size. Residential's primarily 5/8, with a few 3/4, but those are actually older. We're not installing those very often in residential.
So when I looked at the base charges in this bill, right out of the gate, the rate to the 1-inch line was raised by 16%. And or excuse me, 18%. And the 1 1/4 was 16%, and the 1 1/2 was also almost 17%. So I'm trying to figure out how we get from that start at the base to where we'll wind up with a 4.2 increase. And that's 4.2 annually for the next 5 years. So that's actually a 20% increase over the next 5 years.
And really where that comes from is the importance of doing the cost of service study. And because what you're ideally looking to do is to say, okay, each member, all of those 47,000 accounts that make up the system, what's their pool in the system,
Right.
and what should be their contribution. And I will say that I think because of the heavy lift of trying to do some of the initial lifts, I think we were more concerned in those early, particularly in that first go round, of just getting the revenue up. And I think that with this study, and you can certainly speak to it more, you really want to look and say, okay, what is each individual's fair share, so that we're not everybody is paying what it is that they pull upon the system.
Right. And then the next question I asked was current fund balance. And our current fund balance, as you reported and as auditors verified, was 99 million unrestricted and 137 million restricted, for nearly $250 million fund balance. So it's a big, significant jump from where we were in 14 and 15. And I know that making that hard decision and a heavy lift helped us get to where we're at. But then I think about, a lot of our customers are on fixed incomes. And a lot of our customers are the ones that don't have the extra. And they're getting pounded, not just by a proposed bill like this, but they're getting pounded by, a third of our county just got higher property assessments. And I think, I forget what that amounted to, but Mr. Giordano talks about higher insurance rates, cost of goods, cost of food. We're hearing all the time, electricity, BG&E. We just raised our trash and tipping fees. We raised our impact fees. We raised our permit fees, our 911 fees. And I just wonder how much more our citizens can handle. And then on top of that, yesterday, when the county executive put out his budget message, he identified that the state has put an additional $6.2 million in tax revenue on the backs of our citizens as well. So I just wonder how much more our average citizen can take, and is it possible for us to hold this back a year or so? Instead of doing it now, when we have a huge fund balance, which is great. I'm not saying anything negative about it, it's great. I'm glad we do. But I just can't see packing on. You talked about, when we met, you talked about a raise and a merit for our water and sewer workers. Well, we have that. You told me that this revenue, if we passed it, would increase our revenue by maybe $3 million, $2.63 million, somewhere in there. We have that. We have $250 million in our fund balance, 99 unrestricted, 130 some restricted. So it's not like we have to have that today to give those increases and merit, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, the
No, I'm just
fund-
asking you, is that correct?
Yeah, so the fund has those, I will just note, though, that the restricted funds, so when we talk about the restricted fund balance, that comes from the hookup fees and that can only be used for capacity-related projects. So when we add capacity, to the system, so that cannot be used for operational. So the 99 million of operational, a good chunk of that is our 120-day reserve. And so we want to have, that's kind of like our 5% rainy day fund, fiscal stabilization fund. Then there's funds within that have already been appropriated to capital projects. They're currently sitting in capital projects, and then other ones that are going to be deployed to capital projects. And this kind of gets to that by using that $36 million of capital expenditures. A good portion of that is coming from those areas. So again, we do have strong overall fund balances, and I'm not going to make the claim that if these rates weren't approved, that that would have a dramatic effect on the system. However, I do think that that's how we ended up in the situation 25 years ago, because we had at the time strong fund balances. They were largely driven because of a lot of residential growth at the time, and then that enabled us, I think, kind of got us into that habit of just because there's almost never a good time to do a rate increase. And I think the benefit of doing a 4.2% rate increase, is that it smooths out those increases, so that we're not coming back, say, next year and then asking for a 7% increase or something like that.
No, I understand all that. I worry about our citizens. Everything we do is on the back of our citizens. They pay the taxes, whether it be income tax, whether it be property tax, whether it be a water and sewer fee or a tipping fee or whatever else. So that's my concern. Mr. Giordano.
So, good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for the presentation. So let's go back to that. Didn't we just increase up, or how much of this fund balance is from connection fees? And didn't we just increase the connection fees? And is that projected into this with that? It doesn't seem like that's.
So the connection fees, there's no change in the increase for connection fees as part of this legislation. That's that 132 million. I almost think about that. I would almost think about that very similar to when we have our impact fees. Like we talk about, we have impact fees that we charge on new residential construction to pay for school capacity. To me, the hookup fees and the EDU charges, that's the equivalent of that. And we put that into a separate bucket for when we have to add, bigger pump stations and, or drill more wells or take on additional capacities. This is just more like your general fund. So this is largely kind of for our basic operating and kind of system rehab charge. So I do think that in that case, the 99 million is the appropriate metric to use there. And I do have the what was it? I had of the 99 million at the end of last fiscal year, so 31 million is currently on capital projects, and that could be on everything from fleet to other forms of capital projects that has just not been spent, wasn't spent at the end of the fiscal year. We had about $2 million in encumbrances. We had $24 million in the 120-day reserve, and then there was $42 million in future capital expenditures, and that's largely kind of what we're using for these upcoming capital projects.
Okay. So it looks like our operating requirements right now are about 65, is that 65 million? 65 million, but by 2030, we're going to be at 80 million, $15 million increase. So what is that? What's that made up of?
Which
15
drive,
million?
I mean, you have increasing labor costs, so salaries and benefits and things like that. And then I'll probably let Joe handle this more, but a lot of environmental costs and the like. And so.
The highest cost is not labor. The highest cost is the cost of chemicals, which just in the past 3 or 4 years have gone up astronomically. And of course, we use a lot of chemicals as part of not only the water treatment, but the wastewater treatment. Electric cost, we have a lot of high-powered pumps, high-powered equipment, and you've seen what BG&E's electric bills have been coming out and projected to be. And we're looking ahead to be sure that we don't find ourselves behind the 8 ball, if you will. So all of those elements of all those operating costs and those projections forward get factored into the analysis to not have surprises and to also be sure that funds are available for the repair of the facilities if there's a problem. Because we, at least in the 9 years that I've been here, we've not had the mindset of some of our neighbor jurisdictions of kicking the can down the road, oh, we'll fix it next year, or we'll, wait until some other period of time. Bill Bettine, I give him a lot of credit for the group that he runs, that they take a great deal of pride in the maintenance of those facilities and the operation of them in the most efficient way possible. And so this rate projection reflects that reality of what can be expected. The other thing is, too, is we have a relatively young infrastructure compared to the Baltimore cities or the Baltimore counties of the world. However, the bulk of that infrastructure was built in the 70s and 80s when the county really took off. So those facilities are now showing a 30 or 40-year age. So the rate of problems will continue to increase as time goes on, and we try to stay ahead of them. So that use of those fund balances and use of those rainy day funds, as Robbie mentioned, are there to be sure that we can keep the system running and operating as well as it has.
Is there an alternative percentage other than the 4.2 that you looked at? How did you guys, was there 3.6? Was there something that we could see separate from this, maybe lower, and see where that projects out to? Maybe, we want to look at that for a year or two before, instead of this 4.2%?
Well, and Robert can correct me if I'm wrong, but we started with the cost. How much does it cost to operate the system at a level that we choose to operate it, which is high quality, immediate response, repair when necessary, and not defer until another time.
And Mr. Bettine did speak to that.
So the costs drive the revenues. It's not the other way around. We don't pick a revenue number or a percent increase number and then see if the operating costs match. That's when the cost of service type of analysis that Arcadis did that had not been done since that 2014 went down all the way to the actual operating costs of each of those meter connections. You picked up on, Council President Vincenti, that those have a little different percentage built into them. And that was We didn't design that. We recognized, or our consultant Arcadis recognized what those increases were for those different elements within the system.
See, and I wasn't available, or I didn't hear any conversations with Bill Bettine with this. This is the first time I've seen this. Now, I know a couple years ago, I remember sitting in on the meetings when we were talking about the rate increases for the water and sewer that were drastic, I think, 2017. So, this is the first chance I'm sitting to hear this, go over this. Obviously, that's why I have questions as well, looking at this and saying, is there an alternative way that we could look at this and maybe tighten your numbers up a little bit?
So I can just speak to a couple of the questions that we didn't look at anything, lower than the 4.2%, because that is what was required to meet, right, the operating needs of the system. And so we established that as the goal, right, in order to meet those costs. I'll also add that, that one of the things that we also looked at, it's in the study report, I was just referencing here, table 2-4, but the capital spending, right, the amount that is anticipated to be spent on investment improvements, I'm quickly adding up, and I'm at 150 million. So the plan is to spend a lot of those reserves, right? They've been saved up for a rainy day, and I understand, and as part of our study, that the plan is to spend a lot of that money on the system over the next 5 years. And again, as Robbie had mentioned, is doing that without debt. Right? We haven't included any new debt in our forecast because you've essentially done a great job of building your reserves to be able to pay for the infrastructure needs.
Now,
I think to answer, when we say what are the consequences, it is then to defer capital projects that would otherwise be funded, which will eventually, if not corrected, will have negative results in the future. And at some point, the rates would then have to be adjusted. And we said before that would mean that you would probably have to have a higher increase in a future years in order to, if you will, make it get the rates back in line with where they should be. I mean, at the end of the day, it all kind of has to even out. So.
Yeah, anything less than the 4.2, you'd essentially be running a deficit, and that's really your policy decision to do that or not. But eventually, at some point in the future, you would have to make that up. It may not be within this 5 years. It may be at some point you'd have to be higher than 4.2 to make that up.
and let's be clear, I'm not suggesting that we do anything but what you're suggesting. What I'm suggesting is it does not have to be done this year. It could be done next year, and we'll still be in a good position to do everything that we need to do. That's my thought right now. We don't know what the future is going to bring, but I know what our citizens have on them today because I hear from them every day. Every day.
And one more question.
Yes.
On the monthly water, do we know if American Water, what their rates are compared to what we have here and their projected rates?
I don't have that information on hand. We'd have to reach out and get that. I'm sure I could get it through the Public Service Commission. It would be on record, but
I'd like to see that compared to where we are and where their projections go too, just to see.
yeah. We included public utilities in our service, just so it would be similar.
Well, we've got a lot of people with American Water around here, so, I know we've had a rate increase before, and then they had a rate increase, so I'm kind of curious to see if they're going every 5 years or where we're going.
And keep in mind that they're only water,
I
not water and
understand.
sewer, so.
I'm just looking for the water. Yep, that's it.
Mr. Bennett?
Thank you.
Hello, good to be with you all this evening. Thank you for being here. For a little bit of context, I live in the city of Harford, Greece, so this is not my water and sewer bill we're talking about right now. But for context, I pay, for the past 9 years, I've never paid more than $180 a quarter, and that includes my trash collection in my water bill, which I know for county residents, that's not the same thing, depending on where you live. But one major difference I wanted to ask you all about with how the city of Harford Grace sets up their water and sewer rates versus this is they do by usage only. So there's no base cost depending on your hookup, but it's just how much water did you use. So their rates are slightly higher per 1,000 gallons, but there's no bare minimum payment for the month. You know, if you used 0 gallons and flushed your toilet 0 times, your bill would be 0, except for your trash and that. But, so I guess my question is, why would some local governments choose to go rate only, whereas some local governments choose to have a base cost based on your hookup size? And the reason I think about that is, for instance, let's say I used 1,000 gallons of water in a quarter. You know, my base cost is $23.57, and then you add the $5.93. I've now paid $29.50 for 1,000 gallons of water, which in essence means the more water I use, the cheaper my water gets per scale. And that almost seems like the inverse of what we should be trying to encourage behaviorally. Whereas, you know, if we just charge per 1,000 gallons of water, you're incentivized to use less water because your bill's going to get more expensive the more water you use. Whereas with this, it's almost like I better use more water because I get a better deal per 1,000 gallons that way. Do you have any thoughts on, you know, why some places would do rate only, whereas some have a base plus usage? And what's the pros and cons of those two structures?
Sure, absolutely. So I can tell you that the predominant rate structure in the industry is to have some form of a fixed charge as well as a volumetric charge. Certainly there are utilities that choose to only charge a volumetric rate, but the vast majority have some combination of the two. And it's largely a policy decision, right, on how they want to structure their rates. I think there are a lot of advantages to having a fixed charge component. If you think of the cost of delivering water and sewer service, the vast majority of those costs are fixed in nature, right? The cost of paying your employees, right? The cost of the infrastructure that is installed. The vast majority of the costs are fixed in nature. Your fixed revenue, it's also stable, right? That's a stable revenue stream. It's not going to change when it rains significantly. It's not going to change when there's a drought and perhaps water restrictions. And again, that is something that credit rating agencies look at, is, you know, how much of your revenue is stable that you can count on. So you know, revenue stability, I think, is one argument for the fixed charge. Just the nature, right, of providing the service, it's largely your costs are fixed in nature. And then thirdly, that is the most predominant method of charging for water and sewer service.
And if I could add, you brought up that there's, in that model, there's a incentive to use more water because the
It
unit
becomes a
cost
better
goes
deal.
down. If you look at, and I don't remember which slide it was, but there is it's called excess water usage charge, where once any of those, it's the Tier 2 rate, excess usage, that once a threshold is passed on a use at an individual meter, then the unit price increases in order to be able to recognize the fact that is above and beyond what the average user would use, or several, I guess, a factor above the user. So this rate structure takes that element into account in addition to the ones that Mr. Ryle just mentioned.
I appreciate your answers. I would be curious to know at the average. You said the average rate is 4,000 gallons a month. At 4,000 gallons a month, I'd be curious to know for the average user what would be cheaper, to have no base rate and then a slightly higher per gallon rate, or to keep the base rate in a lower per gallon rate. I'd just be curious to know that math, to know like what's better for our light users and what's worse for our heavy users. Would you be able to, in the next few days, be able to provide that math, you think?
I mean, we could certainly do a comparison. I mean, I would tell you overall, right, the revenue that's generated would need to be neutral, right?
Right.
To meet the needs of the system. But if you were to, well, I mean, I can kind of tell you now, if you were to raise the volumetric and eliminate the fixed charge, That would certainly benefit users that are below 12,000 gallons. Um, it would be cheaper for them, right? And it would be, right, to the disadvantage, if you will, of higher use customers.
And then probably neutral to the median user.
The way that I would develop, yes, it would be neutral, right, to that average customer at 12,000 gallons.
And just trying to think through and hearing the council president's concerns about impacting our most economically disadvantaged community members, trying to think through how can we reach our same financial needs with making sure that we're making the impact land on the people who can afford the impact, whereas we're not impacting, the family who's living in an apartment in Joppatown.
Sure.
They might see a decrease in their bill, but we're gonna get the money we need. So that's just
Right.
one thought that I have that might reach his needs, but still reach our financial needs as well.
Well, the other thing also to keep in mind is that we actually, as a nation, we use less water than we used to because our appliances are much more efficient, and disproportionately, those individuals of more means are going to have the more up to date or later models of dishwashers and the like. And that's really one of the reasons why I think you started moving towards these base amounts, because we did have fixed costs, and the amount of water being used oftentimes was declining. But the thing with water is that really if one glass of water to get to your house, or a bathtub full of water, the marginal cost is very, very limited. But you have to make sure that you can service that house, and that's the one thing. If you have like a whole bunch of homes that are not occupied, or they're vacant, we're still under obligation to make sure that house is serviced and on. So that was some of the thinking behind that that model when we went to it back in 8 years ago.
And then my last thought, thinking about my home of Havre Grace, because we just went through and replaced a ton of pipes, as I'm sure many of you are aware. There were wooden pipes that were running water through them in Havre Grace. And so it's had me really think heavily about the cost of maintaining our water systems, especially as the pile of pipes sit next to my house that the city's waiting to install. How many miles of piping do we have? And if you can't answer that specific question, how much more does it cost to service water and sewer in less dense areas versus, like think of your RR versus your R4 per housing unit? Like how much does that add to cost when it's an eighth of a mile between homes?
Well, to answer your first question, roughly 700 miles of water main underground, roughly 700 more of sewer main underground. As far as the unit cost to build those mains to those individual houses, those are primarily funded were built by developers, then paid for by them. Now, our responsibility to maintain it moving forward is part of the reason why we need the continuous revenues to be able to do the replacements, do the repairs, and so on. But the basis of calculation is to repair and maintain, not to build new.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Along those lines of pipes, and before I say that, like Mr. Bennett, I'm not a customer of the county either. I'm on well and septic. But along those lines of pipes, I know for years we've talked about bringing certain developments or areas into public water and sewer, like Fry's Road, like up around Benson. Where are those projects at? Can you speak to those? Because we've been waiting a long time for those two specific.
If Bill Bettine's closer to the action on those, I don't know specifically, but we can get that answer for you.
I'd appreciate that. I'd appreciate that. And then one last thing. I'm sorry?
Rise Road is out to bid this week,
Out to bid. And once it's bid, how long will it take?
probably 6 months,
How long have we been waiting on Fry's Road?
several years.
How many? Okay. 5 or 6? Okay. One last thing from me. The auditors also pointed out that there's an increase in the usage per 1,000 gallon. I guess it is. Yeah, 1,000 gallons, up 59 cents. So that's also an 8% increase on that. Is that correct?
Yes.
So if you look at the way that you get to the 4.2, if you look at the base charge actually for the 5/8, you'll notice that it's the same rate. So that doesn't go up. Kind of to Councilman Bennett's point, that's actually held flat. So in essence, we are increasing the volume rate more in that first year, and that all gets back to that cost of service. Like, okay, who should be paying? Who pays what? At the end of the day, you have to have enough money to cover the system. But when you figure out who pays what, it is largely based upon a usage model, and so that's why that's recalculated the way that it is.
Okay. Thank you. Council, anyone else? Ms. Roberts?
I just wanted to say, thank you for the presentation, and I'm along the lines with Mr. Bennett. I'd like to see how it compares, the way, he stated, the way you presented it, the way if by usage. Because I know even, and I'm in that area where I have a lot of people in apartments and lower income, and they're having a lot of hits with everybody else, so I think this would be very impactful for them. However, if we had a choice of how we use our water and what that rate looks like, I think, we can look at that a little bit better. And I was, along the lines of President Vincenti, looking at it like, or can we wait a year? Does it all have to be compounded right here and now? So those are a couple of things that I'm thinking as well. But I'd like to see anything you can offer to show me what it would look like for those who are less fortunate.
To address a little bit of the first thing you said, and I think Councilman Bennett as well, keep in mind that water usage and water bills don't care how well off you are. That if there is a house with 8 residents, because it's 2 families or whatever the situation is, versus my wife and I in our house, it's driven by the actual amount of gallons that are being used. And so trying to figure a way to be able to balance all those variables, I'm not saying it can't be done, I'm sure you can work all kind of magic, but there's a lot of factors that go into those decisions that may be some unintended consequences if you look at only on usage, because those 2 families, my neighbor that has 6 people, they have 4 kids, mine are all gone, is going to pay a much higher water bill than I will. That's primarily, and if it's all usage, that means that person's going to be paying a lot more of that subsidy too. And then contrarily, if there's a house where people move to Florida for 6 months, so they're not using water, but the county has still made the investment in the maintenance of the mains, repair to the mains, making sure that whenever they do get home and want to turn that faucet on, it's ready to go. And that's the approach and the mentality behind an element of fixed costs, to be sure that we are collecting revenues to have the system ready to serve at whatever rates or whatever demand rates are going to be coming out. So there's a lot of moving parts, but I appreciate the perspective that you've all brought. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robert. Mr. Riley?
Joe, it was exactly my point. I don't know how you can figure out, if you got low income, whether or not they're going to use more or less water. To me, that's nuts. The other thing is, and Pat's point, you're going to pay now or you're going to pay later. So you decide whether you want to do it now or later.
I will tell you, one of the things that we did look at is it's a measure of affordability, right? So the EPA has established, right, that, for a system, looking at things on a system-wide basis, obviously, some customers are not average, some are above average, but they say that a customer should, below 4.5% of median household income. So if the cost of water and sewer service is below 4.5% of median household income, it's considered affordable. Your current rates are at 0.9% of median household income. So from that metric, it's a very affordable system.
Thank you. Mr. Bennett?
Yep, just last, to reiterate what I said earlier, if you were able to provide us the 2 possible paths that are cost neutral of each other, come up to the same amount of money at the end of the day of rate only versus base plus rate, I think that would be helpful in giving us just an additional option to consider as a council that may lead people who right now are feeling hesitant more willing. And to speak to, water doesn't know how much money you make. But we know how much money people make who water their lawns, who have large gardens, who do recreational, water activities like having a pool, having a slip and slide, So we know who has the income to do those excess water activities that really dramatically impact the amount of water usage that you have. So I do think there is a correlation, and I think data would support there's a correlation between income and water usage.
So I'm certainly happy to, to run that analysis. I will just share with you just some information I have here on, I always bring a cheat sheet, so to speak, but if we look at the 5/8 inch meter, and again, that's predominantly going to be your residential customers. If we look at the bottom 25% of consumption, right? So the lowest 25% of consumption, with the proposed rates, that bill impact is only 3.3%, right? The average median, the 50th percentile is the 4.2. Customers on the high end, the 90th percentile of consumption, 4.7% increase. So just to give you a feel, right, for your residential customers, right, we've targeted, trying to smooth and target a 4.2% increase for an average typical customer. 12,000 gallons per quarter of usage. If you're using less than 12,000 gallons, you're going to see less than a 4.2% increase in your bill. If you're using more than 12,000 gallons, you're going to see more than a 4.2% increase.
Would you be able to provide that same breakdown of cost impact with the other option?
We can certainly, with a volumetric only.
Thank you.
One thing I would point out with any type of volume usage, we talk about the high users of water, is that we have water meters. We don't have sewer meters. So we just assume that the amount of water that you take in goes back out through the sewer. So if you are filling up your pool or you're watering your lawn, in essence, you're paying for sewer, even though you're really not using it. So to some extent, I would maintain that those users are not being disproportionately benefited. They're probably being disproportionately paid. But again, some of that's just the limitations of there's no such thing as a sewer meter, or at least none that I know of.
Thank you, Mr. Robbie. Anyone else on the council? Ms. Dixon, do we have anyone signed up?
There's no one signed up, Mr. President.
All right, before you guys go, for the record, I am a voting member of the Board of Estimates. I see everything that goes through for both Sod Run and the water treatment plant. You guys do an outstanding job. This has got nothing to do with that. You guys produce award-winning water for the county. We appreciate that very much. And everybody does their due diligence at both plants, and we appreciate it. This is more about the citizens and the aging community that we have and those that are on fixed incomes. So thank you for your time and thank you for your presentation, and we look forward to hearing back from you on the questions. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll go ahead and conclude this public hearing. Let's take about a 5-minute recess. 25-013. I would ask you to all please stand for the pledge, followed by the opening prayer by Councilwoman Sottles. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us together this evening to serve our community. As we begin this session, grant us wisdom, focus, and respect for one another as we work through tonight's agenda. As we approach the upcoming budget work sessions, guide us to be thoughtful and responsible with the resources entrusted to us. Help us make decisions that reflect the needs and values of all of our residents. May our work tonight and in the weeks ahead be done with integrity, purpose, and a shared commitment to the common good. Amen.
Amen. Agenda item number 4, presentation of proclamations, April 2025 Neurodiversity Awareness Month. Ms. Robert.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to start with a proclamation for Katie York for Harford County Neurodivergence. Thought I'd be loud enough.
Come over this way.
So, Neurodivergent Month celebrates people who have autism, attention deficit disorder, dyslexia, and any other disorders that fall under that umbrella. And so I'm a mental health therapist and wanted to make sure that I made everyone aware of what that means and what neurodiversity means. And Katie has a support group for those with neurodivergent, and it's a peer group so that everyone feels comfortable discussing how that works for them, what concerns, any needs, and supports. So I wanted to present to her this proclamation.
Mr. Giangiordano.
Whereas neurodiversity is a natural part of human diversity, including conditions such as autism, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, dyslexia, and other ways of thinking and learning, and whereas Neurodiversity Awareness Month is an opportunity to recognize and appreciate the unique strengths and talents that neurodivergent individuals bring to our communities, schools, and workplaces, and whereas raising awareness, advocating for inclusion, and providing necessary support ensures that neurodivergent individuals have equal opportunities to succeed. Now, therefore, we, the County Council of Harford County, Maryland, on this 15th day of April, 2025, do hereby proclaim Neurodiversity Awareness Month, April 2025, and encourage everyone to celebrate, learn, and support neurodivergent individuals, creating a community where all minds are valued and included.
Also, we have World Autism Month, and coming forward for that is Tracy Wooden, and she is with Rock the Spectrum. Nikki, sorry. Got the wrong person. I'm missing Trey. We have Nikki. But World Autism Month. So Autism Month celebrates all those on the autistic spectrum. What I found interesting about Rock the Spectrum is I've learned about them for years, and a lot of my clients have utilized their facility. I went there to see the facility, and it is amazing. And they don't just have autistic children that go there. They have all children that go there, and parents have a good place to sit and watch their children play. They have great staff there, and now they have a mobile bus that goes to all locations and can show up at different areas and provide that same support to schools and other rec centers, etc. So I'd like to present this to Ms. Wooten, the proclamation for World Autism Month.
Whereas autism spectrum disorder, ASD, is a complex lifelong developmental condition affecting communication, relationships, social skills, and self-regulation, it is estimated that 1 in 36 children are diagnosed with autism in the United States. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and whereas World Autism Month, observed each April, seeks to raise awareness, promote acceptance, and ignite change that leads to a more inclusive world for people with autism. Education, understanding, and support are vital in fostering an inclusive society that celebrates the unique perspectives and strength of individuals with autism. And whereas it is imperative that we, as a community, recognize the importance of inclusivity, equity, and access to services that empower individuals with autism to achieve their full potential. Now, therefore, we, the County Council of Harford County, Maryland, on this 15th day of April, 2025, do hereby proclaim World Autism Month, April 2025, and encourage all citizens to become more educated about autism, promoting a society that embraces differences with compassion, understanding, and respect.
this way.
Okay, and then Ms. Will-Saddles, could you step that way just a little bit, please, and Mr. Bennett just a tad. Thank you so much. Okay.
I did know Ms. Wooten wanted to say a couple words. if
Sure.
you don't mind.
All right, thank you. I am Nikki, and my husband and I, we were at the Spectrum. He had an unexpected procedure today. He's fine, but he's just a little groggy. So, but I was just going to be short, and if I don't read it or say real quick, then it'll be way too long. So, but so we started this as a business, but as a mission. Because we wanted to serve the community for all kids of all abilities with a focus on the neurodivergent kids and families. There's a huge population of neurodiverse kids and families in our area, including our own. So we just felt like all kids deserved a physically and emotionally safe place to play and be themselves. Our gym, which is a sensory gym, has zip line, trampoline, lots of different swings. We go all the way from the little bitties all the way up to your 10 to 12-year-olds. Teens and young adults with autism also come and play. We get schools from Kennedy Krieger, Cecil County, some of their special needs groups have been coming, Baltimore County, Baltimore City. Harford County schools won't allow their schools to come to us because we require a waiver. We've tried, but we do the best we can. All our families in Harford County come. Everybody's learning about us all the time. We come getting new families, and we do the best, and lots of word of mouth, all that. But our biggest thing is when they come in, we just want kids to be kids. We get our population is probably about half and half neurotypical and neurodivergent kids, and it's so cool to just see kids go ahead and just play, and all the different ages. The ages mix well together too, and so we like to say we're not just another play place. We're finally a place where you never have to say I'm sorry, and where grace is expected. And then Ms. Robert talked about our mobile gym. So it's called We Rock on Wheels. You may have seen the big blue bus that's riding around. So we can go to events, birthday parties. We can do a lot of those things. The gym, people come to us for events, birthday parties, open play. We're excited that all this can be, just a way that the community can, we can serve our autistic community and just our community in general. And we are celebrating June 5 years because we opened in June of 2020 with Mr. Vicenti's help a lot. So, we just thank for the support of the community, and we just look forward to serving more years here. So, all right, thank you.
Agenda item number 5, consideration of petitions, applications, appointments, and nominations, executive appointments, Harford County Public Library Board of Trustees. Ms. Saddles, may I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve the reappointments of Dr. Monique Head and Errol Edding to the Harford County Public Library Board of Trustees.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Giangiordano. It's been moved and second to approve the reappointments of the Library Board of Trustees. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mrs. Robert,
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano,
Aye.
Mr. Riley.
Aye.
Mrs. Bulsato.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
There being 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 absent, vacant, the appointments are hereby approved. Reappointments are hereby approved. Commission on Disabilities, Ms. Robert, may I have a motion?
I move to approve the reappointments of Charles Kelly Jr., Michael Mathias, Parnell Barmer, Rebecca Cook, and Stephanie Schwartz to the Commission on Disabilities.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Giangiordano. It's moved and seconded to approve the reappointments. Is there any discussion? Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mrs. Robert?
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mrs. Bulsato?
Aye.
Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
There being 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 vacant, the reappointments are hereby approved. 6 special presentations, we have none. 7, approval of minutes. Public hearing, April 8th, 2025, Legislative Day, 25-012, April 8th, 2025. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Being no corrections, the minutes stand approved. Mr. Giangiordano, please read resolutions 00825 and 00925 into the record for introduction, please.
Resolution 008-25, adoption of the property tax rate as introduced by Council President Vincenti at the request of the County Executive. A resolution to levy and impose a property tax upon all persons for real and personal property in Harford County, Maryland, both within and without the city of Havre de Grace and the city of Aberdeen and the incorporated town of Bel Air in the county, that is subject to ordinary taxation in accordance with Article 15 of the Declaration of Rights of the Maryland Constitution, the tax property article, the local government article of the annotated code of Maryland, and Chapter 123, Article 1, Sections 123-15, 123-16, and 123-27 of the Harford County Code, as amended, for the purposes of meeting all of the estimated county expenses for the taxable year beginning on the first day of July 2025 and ending on the 30th day of June 2026, and set to the rate of county taxation for such taxable property in year. Resolution 009-25, fiscal year 26 capital improvement program as introduced by Council President Vincenti at the request of the County Executive. A resolution to adopt the capital program for the fiscal years ending June 30th, 2026, June 30th, 2027, June 30th, 2028, June 30th, 2029, June 30th, 2030, and June 30th, 2031. Public hearing scheduled on Wednesday, May 7th, and Thursday, May 15th at 7 p.m. in these council chambers.
Thank you, Mr. Giangiordano. Please read in for agenda item number 9, introduction of bills, Bill 25-005, annual budget appropriation ordinance.
Bill 25005, annual budget appropriation ordinance as introduced by Council President Vincenti at the request of the County Executive. The annual budget and appropriation ordinance of Harford County, Maryland, to adopt the county budget consisting of the current expense budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026, the capital budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026, and a special purpose budgets for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026, and the grants budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026, and to appropriate funds for all expenditures for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025, and ending June 30th, 2026, as here and after indicated. Public hearing scheduled on Wednesday, May 7th, and Thursday, May 15th at 7 p.m. in these council chambers.
Thank you. Also, agenda item 10, introduction and consideration of amendments. Mr. Giangiordano, please read amendments 1 through 9 to Bill 25-002.
Amendments 1 through 9 to Bill 25-002, Comprehensive Zoning, Harford County Zoning Maps. Amendment number 1, introduced by Council Member Riley. On map 40 of the bill, as introduced, the proposed R2 zoning for 3.69 acres of the total 10.4554 acres of parcel 134, as illustrated on the attached exhibit, is amended to B2 zoning district, issue D-0010. Amendment number 2, introduced by Council Member Riley. On map 55 of the bill, as introduced, the proposed AG zoning for 5.26 acres of the total 7.1 acres of parcel number 862, as illustrated on the attached exhibit, is amended to a B3 zoning district, issue B008. Amendment number 3, introduced by Council Member Riley. On map 33 of the bill, as introduced, the proposed VR zoning for parcel number 66, as illustrated on the attached exhibit, is amended to a VB zoning district, issue D009. Amendment number 4, introduced by Council Member Riley. On map 5 of the bill, as introduced, the proposed village business zoning for 1.082 acres of the total 26.3 acres of parcel number 11, as illustrated on the attached exhibit, is amended to CI zoning district, issue D007. Amendment number 5, introduced by Councilmember Riley on map 32 of the bill as introduced. The proposed VR zoning for parcel number 131 as illustrated on the attached exhibit is amended to VB zoning district issue D015. Amendment number 6, introduced by Councilmember Riley on map 19 of the bill as introduced. The proposed AG zoning for parcel number 432 as illustrated on the attached exhibit is amended to a VB zoning district issue D002. Amendment number 7, introduced by Councilmember Riley on map 17 of the bill as introduced. The proposed AG zoning for 2.07 acres of the total 2.547 acres of parcel number 59 as illustrated on the attached exhibit is amended to a B2 zoning district issue D001. Amendment number 8, introduced by Councilmember Riley on map 5 of the bill as introduced. The proposed VB zoning for 24.94 acres of the total 26.03 acres of parcel number 11 as illustrated on the attached exhibit is amended to GI zoning district issue D007. Amendment number 9, introduced by Councilmember Boyle Sottles on map 42 of the bill as introduced. The proposed RR zoning for parcel number 24 as illustrated on the attached exhibit is amended to a B2 zoning district issue E004.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to vote on these amendments one at a time. Amendment 1, issue number 10, or excuse me, D-010. May I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve Amendment 1.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. It's been moved and seconded to approve Amendment 1. Is there any discussion? Mr. Bennett?
As we go through each of these amendments, I wanted to make sure I shared that I told our council president and Councilman Riley earlier this evening, with us considering amendments that all involve going higher than the recommended placement from planning and zoning and the PAB. I think it's really important for public clarity and consumption that thorough rationale is provided for each one. And without that, I wouldn't feel comfortable supporting these. So I hope that we're able to get that for each amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Anyone else? Thank you. Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mrs. Robert,
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano,
Aye.
Mr. Riley,
Aye.
Mrs. Bulsato.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett.
No?
There being 5 votes in the affirmative, 1 negative, 1 vacant, Amendment 1 to Bill 25-002 is hereby approved. Amendment number 2, may I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve Amendment number 2.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. It's been moved and seconded to approve Amendment number 2. Is there any discussion?
For this particular amendment, I think it's worth noting that currently we don't have a representative of District B on the county council. However, we do know that on the PAB, there were members on that who lived in District B, and they recommended no change. And with that reason, I feel comfortable voting no on this amendment and trusting the advice of the PAB.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. For me, as well as other members of the county council, we visited a property. We looked at it firsthand. We realized that it was a split zone piece of property, and we decided to grant a move a line on that property, but continue to keep a strong ag and wooded buffer on that property. Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mrs. Robert,
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano,
So I'm going to abstain, and the reason for my abstaining is that Mr. Lenhoff, mother-in-law works in my office. We insure that property, so I need to abstain from this.
Thank you, Mr. Giangiordano.
Mr. Riley,
Aye.
Mrs. Bulsato.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett.
No?
Be 4 votes in the affirmative, 1 negative, 1 abstention, and 1 vacant. Amendment 2 to Bill 25-002 is hereby approved. Amendment 3, may I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve Amendment number 3.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. It's been moved and seconded to approve Amendment number 3. Is there any discussion? Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mrs. Robert,
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano,
Aye.
Mr. Riley,
Aye.
Mrs. Bulsato.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett,
No.
There being 5 votes in the affirmative, 1 negative, 1 vacant, Amendment 3 to Bill 25002 is hereby approved. Amendment number 4, may I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve amendment number 4.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. It's been moved and second to approve amendment number 4. Is there any discussion? Mr. Bennett?
I just want to real quick reiterate my rationale for voting no. Without public consumption of rationale, I just don't think it's fair to vote on these amendments, and especially we're about to be talking between Amendment 4 and Amendment 8, we're talking about 25 acres of land, and I just think it's only fair to state to the public why we're amending. So without a rationale, I'll be voting no.
Thank you. Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mrs. Robert,
I'm gonna say no.
Mr. Giangiordano,
Aye.
Mr. Riley,
Aye.
Mrs. Bulsato.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett,
No.
There being 4 votes in the affirmative, 2 votes in the negative, 1 vacant, the amendment 4 to Bill 25-002 is hereby approved. Amendment 8.
Council President, I move to approve amendment number 8.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. It's moved and second to approve amendment number 8. Is there any discussion? Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mrs. Robert,
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano,
Aye.
Mr. Riley,
Aye.
Mrs. Bulsato.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett,
No.
There being 5 votes in the affirmative, 1 negative, 1 vacant, Amendment 8 to Bill 25002 is hereby approved. Amendment 5. May I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve amendment number 5.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. It's moved and second to approve amendment number 5. Is there any discussion? Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mrs. Robert,
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano,
Aye.
Mr. Riley,
Aye.
Mrs. Bulsato.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett,
No.
There being 5 votes in the affirmative, 1 negative, 1 vacant, Amendment 5 to Bill 25002 is hereby approved. Amendment 6, may I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve amendment number 6.
Thank you, may I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. It's been moved and second to approve amendment number 6. Is there any discussion? Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mrs. Robert,
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano,
Aye.
Mr. Riley,
Aye.
Mrs. Bulsato.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett,
No.
There being 5 votes in the affirmative, 1 negative, 1 vacant, Amendment 6 to Bill 2502 is hereby approved. Amendment 7, may I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve amendment number 7.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve amendment number 7. Is there any discussion? Mr. Bennett?
Just to reiterate one last time, because this is the last of Councilman Riley's amendments, I'm not trying to be needlessly difficult or obtuse. I just think it's important in a process as impactful in the community, like comprehensive rezoning. Anything we do is explained and communicated to help the public consume what's happening in front of them. And that's why I've voted no on each of these previous amendments without rationale shared publicly.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mrs. Robert,
No.
Mr. Giangiordano,
Aye.
Mr. Riley,
Aye.
Mrs. Bulsato.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett,
No.
Excuse me. There being 4 votes in the affirmative, 2 negative, 1 vacant, Amendment 7 to Bill 25002 is hereby approved. Amendment 9, may I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve amendment 9.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Ottles. Been moved and seconded to approve Amendment 9. Is there any discussion? I would like to state that when this was brought up, I did go and speak to the neighbors to make sure that this small piece parcel that was off of Prospect Mill Road that was attached to a much larger piece would not bother them at all, and they were very supportive, and so therefore I will be supporting it. Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mrs. Robert,
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano,
Aye.
Mr. Riley,
Aye.
Mrs. Bolsado,
Aye.
Mr. Bennett,
Aye.
There being 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 vacant, Amendment 9 to Bill 25002 is hereby approved. Agenda item number 11, call for final reading of bills. Bill 25-003, appropriation special pays. May I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve Bill 25-003.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Been moved and seconded to approve Bill 25003. Is there any discussion? Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mrs. Robert,
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano,
Aye.
Mr. Riley,
Aye.
Mrs. Bolsado,
Aye.
Mr. Bennett,
Aye.
There being 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 vacant, Bill 25003 is hereby approved. Agenda number 12, enrollment of bills. Bill 25003 serves as the text finally passed. 13, unfinished business, we have none. 14, new business, Republican Central Committee, Council District B nominees. Council, before I ask the nominees to come forward, I want to recognize the chair of the Republican Central Committee and other members in attendance this evening. And I want to thank Mr. McBride for his due diligence in following through with this process. It was not only challenging for us, but it was challenging for them as well. They responded in an immediate fashion and a professional fashion, and we appreciate you being here, and we appreciate the process. Thank you. And at this time, I would like to call Ms. Allison Imhoff forward, Mr. Russell English forward, and Mr. Joseph Xavier forward. Now, I want to thank each of you for the commitment that you're making if selected. I want to thank you for the time that you spent with myself and my colleagues, both in and out of this office. We appreciate, I think the commitment, I said that, but I think the average citizen does not understand the amount of time and commitment that you make when you step up for this position. So with that, I'm going to give each of you 3 minutes to introduce yourselves, give a little background about yourselves. As before, I think it's important that whichever individual we choose, you will be representing somewhere between 42 and 45,000 citizens. They may not know you, they may never have seen you, and this process right here is to give them an opportunity to meet you and hear you. So Ms. Imhoff, if you'll start.
Thank you. Thank you, Council. For anyone who I haven't met, my name's Allison Imhoff. Through my career in public service and leadership, I have learned that if you want something great, you have to take chances. If you want lives to change, you have to be consistent. And if you want the work to continue even after you've left, you have to build a team that leads for the future. When I followed my professional purpose back to Harford County, I knew that being able to serve and represent the community that I grew from would be the honor of a lifetime. My dad has taught me how to read a budget, fix a fence, steer a calf, and pass a bill. My mom has taught me the importance of community and making sure that everyone has a voice. They both taught me the importance of showing up for your neighbors. Author Simon Sinek talks about, start with why. Why do you get up every day? Why do you lead? I am 6th generation of Harford County, 6 generations of active, engaged community members that have seen the unique beauty of this county and the remarkableness of its people. As much as I am here in this community because of the generations before me, it is the 7th generation of citizens here with me tonight, up past their bedtime, that I'm here sitting before you. It is them and all the families of Harford County that are my why. John C. Maxwell said that there are 5 non-negotiable characteristics that every effective leader must have: a sense of calling, an ability to communicate, creativity and problem solving, generosity, and consistency. I pride myself on having all these things, but most importantly, I have the best interest of District 3 citizens and all of Harford County as the core of my purpose. There's a difference between someone who has a big opinion and a lot of free time and an active, engaged candidate who has spent their life's work every day to make their community better. By learning from people outside of their inner circle and by partnering with some of the most remarkable agencies, groups, businesses, and individuals, I am the person my district needs. The roots of my work ethic stem from my family values that have grown and prospered on my family farm. Paul Harvey said, "I need someone willing to get up before dawn, milk cows, work all day in the fields, milk cows again, eat supper, then go to town and stay past midnight at the meeting of the school board." So God made a farmer. I need someone who could plow deep and straight, not cut corners, someone to seed, weed, feed, breed, and rake, someone who'd bale a family together with soft, strong bonds of sharing, who would laugh and then sigh, and then reply with smiling eyes when her little girl says she wants to do as her family does. So God made a farmer. This county and council needs someone who has dedicated their days to helping their community members through their most vulnerable chapters, and the rest of their waking hours ensuring that our schools, elected offices, community boards, commissions, and committees have substantial leadership and direction. Someone who is a product of the community they are representing. I am that person. I have never met a challenge I could not figure out for myself or for a member of my community, and I will continue to put the needs and wants of the community before outside opportunists, and I'll proudly lead us into our next chapter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Inhofe. Mr. English, please bring that mic closer to you.
Closer.
Yes,
How's that?
that's perfect.
Okay. Good evening, members of the council and citizens of Harford County. My name is Russell English Jr., but most people call me Russ. I'm 65 years old and have been a resident of Harford County most of my adult life. Moving here at the age of 10 with my parents from Chicago, Illinois, we've lived in District B, just off Pleasantville Road. I've attended Forest Hill Elementary School, Bel Air Middle School, and Bel Air High School. Go Bobcats, yay! After high school, I went into the Marine Corps for 4 years and obtained the rank of sergeant in less than 2 years. During my time in the Marine Corps, I was trained as a C-130 engine mechanic, but got volunteered for overseas duty, and I traveled the world. I was one of the lucky ones and found my niche in the liaison office on Kadena Air Force Base in Okinawa, Japan, where I coordinated logistics between the Marine Corps, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Japanese civilian offices for 2 years. Then I returned to the U.S. and finished out my military obligation doing what I was originally trained to do. And I really liked working on C-130 aircraft and flying on them. After my time in the Marines, I returned back here to Harford County and lived in both Joppatown and the Edgewood areas before meeting and marrying my wife, Mary. We bought her mother's home, and due to our strong family values, her mother lived within our household for the balance of her life. She lived to a ripe old age of 94. My wife has lived in this house her entire life, while I've only had the privilege of living there for 37 years. We raised 3 wonderful children, all of whom have been involved in community interest by participating in the school activities, 4-H of Harford County, Boys and Girl Scouts, community sports programs to include soccer, baseball, and softball. I noticed the changes in Harford County that have occurred during the past 40-plus years that I've lived here. I also have heard the complaints from my neighbors on the growth and change that Harford County is going through. And speaking with friends and citizens throughout Harford County, the general consensus was the same. Things need to change. I am one voice, and getting things done by myself would be extremely difficult, but it is my resolve to work with the members, all members, of Harford County Council to bring some resolution to the problems within Harford County. I started public service at the age of 16 on the public safety side by joining a volunteer fire company. And then after the Marines, I joined another fire company, and with their help and training, I was hired by Baltimore County Fire Department. Ultimately, I was promoted to the rank of lieutenant, and I retired after 34 years of service. 3 years before I planned to retire, I decided to run for the state delegate position for District 7, and then again, after retirement in 2022, for District 7 Bravo. Running for a government position has been one of my most rewarding experiences of my life. While I did not walk away with the title, I walked away with something more valuable: growth.
So when the council seat for District B became available, I took this opportunity to offer myself to serve my community. I think I bring a long-time resident perspective to this seat and look forward to meeting anyone in District B that is interested in voicing their opinion of what they want to see changed in Harford County. I believe being retired, my personal drive and desire to make this job my own will allow me to put the necessary hours out without conflict from a full-time job to make this position a benefit for the citizens of District B and, for that matter, all of Harford County. I just want to thank everyone for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. English. Mr. Xavier?
Great, thank you. Well, good evening, County Council members. In the next 3 minutes, I will share 3 guiding principles, limitations, and wrap up with a warm appreciation for the work that you do. My position on development stems from when I served as a compliance officer with Maryland OSHA, and that is to enable business leaders to do what they do best, while at the same time protecting the hardworking families that make those businesses successful. This goes beyond work-life balance. It's about supporting the health of the family unit and the public safety of the community. For zoning, my beliefs were put into practice when my family moved here 20 years ago, and I testified against the special exception for the right school to be built in the wrong location. Areas that we can protect and preserve should be protected and preserved. Areas that should be developed must be developed in ways that maximize the benefit to the community. My third principle is focused on opportunities for students to be fully engaged, equipped, and empowered to stretch and achieve more than they can imagine. This means supporting the frontline teachers and encouraging groups like the Student Council, 4-H, Honor Society, apprenticeships or internships, and of course sports, where young people can explore their talents, skills, and learn life lessons that build character, resilient relationships, and desire to do difficult things that make a difference. Concerning my ability to serve, while my VP of HR encouraged me to serve, legal came back with restrictions that prevent me from serving in the way District B deserves to be represented. You vote next Tuesday, and I'll be in Texas, so if I am not here, please vote for Allison or Russ. If I am here by some chance, then that means I need your vote because I was unexpectedly laid off, which seems to be happening quite a bit in the DC area, which is where I work. In closing, I need to express my new understanding and appreciation for the time, the talent, and the treasure that each of you invests into the community and your deep concern for the citizens and the employees of Harford County. All of this is significantly more than what is classified, I'm almost afraid to say it, as a part-time job. And I do thank you for all that you do and the sacrifices that you make to represent our communities. And may God bless Harford County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Xavier. Thank all of you for your presentation here this evening. Council, at this time, I'd like to open up for questions. Mr. Bennett?
Hello, good evening. It's good to be with you all, and it's good that we were able to all meet over the past few weeks and speak with each other at length. I just wanted to reiterate some of my questions I asked you in our meetings to make sure the public at large can hear what you had to say as well. But none of it should be a surprise, and I'm not going to quiz you on anything I shared about myself. But my first question, a little bit of background on it. A little over a dozen years ago, I was starting a mentoring program for children living in public housing. And so I was attending a regional training on how to do that work, and the trainer said something that's always stuck with me, which is if you want to change a community, you need to first be a member of it. So with that in mind, could you speak to your connections and social investments in the District B community that keep you rooted in that community?
So I'll go first. So I'm lifelong of District B. I went to Youth Benefit, Falston Middle School, Falston High School. My family is very, very connected to the Falston Fire Department. In fact, a few years ago, my husband and I actually donated a house to them to use for a training. I'm very close with my girls' schools. I am also a social worker in Harford County. So there is probably not a zip code that I have not worked in. I work very, very closely with the school system, and I've also worked with victim services and law enforcement. I'm also becoming more and more connected with the different groups of social action that is occurring in our district. I've been following them for a long time, but actually getting to know a lot of the individuals that are leading the way. And so I take great pride in actually being able to learn more about those different groups.
Thank you.
Basically, mine started back when I was probably 10, 11, 12 years old. Falston Presbyterian Church had scout troop there. So I got involved in the community with the scout troop. And from there, all the sport programs. From Youth Benefit Elementary School, where I played baseball, and all the way up into Falston, around the areas where we did different things. My current position is I've been working with my community right around my area, from Old Joppa Road out through Franklinville Road, back in those areas. And we've been getting a stronger community ties to take on issues. We've actually, over probably the past 5 years, developed a very strong community relationship that we've taken on some of the things from the state with 95 progression. They were going to put a parking right at the end of Franklinville, right at Mountain Road and Franklinville Road. Our community actually stepped up, and we actually approached Mr. J.B. Jennings, the senator from the state of Maryland, and we worked with him to try and get some resolution. Ironically enough, we got that stopped, and they moved it and took it over to Mr. Normar's old property over there at the exit ramp from 95. They put a roundabout in there. So working hard with my neighborhood, working hard with the state, it has been a pleasure and a wonderful time learning all those aspects, and it's been great. As far as the fire department in the area, I can tell you, being a career fireman, I know pretty much almost all the firemen around here. If they don't know or of them personally, they know me by my nickname from the Baltimore County Fire Department, and I won't say it here. But it's actually pleasurable. So I have been enjoying everything I've done and learning more and more about our community and working consistently with the neighborhoods and working and moving outward. And then with some of the changes that have occurred just recently with our zoning and planning, I've had the opportunity to talk to a couple of residents in our county, in District B, and listen to the plight that they were looking for and how they wanted to progress with that. And I've talked to Mr. Pat Vincetti a little bit about one of those, and that was up there at Pleasantville Road and Mountain Road at the sawmill. So I'm looking forward to going further and learning more and continuing to serve and help the citizens of this area. With or without this position, I'm going to continue to do that.
Thank you for the question, Councilman Bennett. My involvement in the community, my wife and I got married about 24 years ago. We moved to Harford County from Baltimore County because we wanted all the benefits that the Falston area presented. It's a wonderful place to live, to raise a family, to live, work, play, pray, and all those things. Just a wonderful, rich community. I have 3 children. Two went to Falston. They're twins. They're now 21 and go to UMBC. But they were involved in Boy Scout Troop 801. As a dad, I got a chance to go to all of their events at the high school, at the middle school and the high school, and a pleasure to see all of that. My daughter went to SMA, and this June she'll be going to the Air Force Academy, and she'll be enrolled there in basic training for the Air Force Academy, which we're very proud of her and the achievements that she attained at Aberdeen High School with SMA. Additionally, I'm involved in 3 nonprofits. These nonprofits are privately funded, not with any government funding. One is Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I'm on the state board for Maryland, and we have a strong and thriving local group here in Harford County. You may have seen their headquarters over there on Churchville Road, and through them we invest in the middle school and high schools throughout the county. Another one is Choose Hope, the one that Congressman Robert had visited last week or a week before. Located in Edgewood. I'm currently the chair of that, a volunteer chair of the board of directors for Choose Hope Women's Center, and I'm connected through the community through that. Nationally, I'm on the board of trustees for the Construction Industry Alliance for Suicide Prevention, where we have a mission to end the high suicide rate in construction. I have a love for people. Some other things that I've been involved with back in 2014. I was encouraged to participate in the Citizen Advisory Committee for the school system. Back then it was Officer Bob Benedetto, and we were working on plans for school security and safety back in 2014. So love this community and look forward to continuing being here and helping our community grow.
Thank you. All three of you are very involved in very different ways, which is really great to hear. My second question is what's one issue you see that's impacting your district specifically? And then secondly, an issue that you see impacting the county as a whole? And you don't have to say how you're going to fix it because that's a much larger question, but as long as you can see the issue.
So, one of the biggest issues that I see for District B is the majority of the people that I graduated school with can't afford to live there. They want to raise their families in District B, but it's just not realistic for them. So many of them have spread out to Pennsylvania or Cecil County or Baltimore County or Carroll County. And I know that they're interested and still invested in our district and our county because I see them every weekend when they come home to visit. And I would love to be able to make it a more realistic option for people with young families to actually be able to live in our district. You know, in my childhood, I saw a large boom of, you know, upper middle class housing. And the families aren't necessarily looking for condos, they're looking for single family homes. And I would love for them to actually have the option to be able to move back home. I recently met with the CEO of the hospitals, and she said that while we have a very healthy population of people at retirement age and beyond, we don't have the infrastructure of the population to be able to maintain that. So bringing back the population of young families who could actually fill in those roles would be substantial. As far as the county as a whole, the county is a pretty diverse area. So every district, every zip code is going to need something else. Again, I pride myself on being a social worker, and I've worked with every socioeconomic group or population. I've worked in every zip code, and every zip code is going to need something different. But I would argue it is across the county. People want to live here. So we need to just make it an option for them to be able to do so.
Okay, the answer to your question, sir, infrastructure. It's actually one of the biggest issues I've come across when talking to everybody within not only just District B, but literally across Harford County. I'm up at Stepping Stone Farm Museum quite a bit. I'm actually the vice president of the Susquehanna Beekeepers Association. And we have hot beehives up there, and we do demonstrations up there, and students go to actually hear and see what beekeepers do. Listening to the parents and talking about what they are concerned about, and that's actually one of the biggest things that comes up. And the infrastructure I'm talking about mostly is our roads. Our roads are not designed to handle what we have currently. And building on what Ms. Emhoff has said, housing has been the issue with that as well. We've been adding more and more houses, and with less infrastructure, the people are getting longer and longer travel times. They're actually using side roads. Most of the side roads in this county are not designed for the high volume, high speed. They were designed on low volume, low speed. And this is causing an issue. It's tearing up our roadways, not just in District B, but across this entire county. And that cost is going to come back on the taxpayers eventually because it is damaging these roads, and we have to spend the time and the money to repair them. So we need to talk to the state, see if we can get our larger roads, state roads, that infrastructure increased to accommodate what we currently have, as well as looking to the future for the expansion and building that we're looking for in the future. Thank you.
So I would say that it's protecting our rural lifestyle, which includes great schools and includes a safe atmosphere and environment to raise children in. Oh, and for the county, overall, I feel like, you know, listening to the last testimony from last week from Gabrielle from, I'm not sure if 3P's here, but she was fantastic. I thought that, you know, that just kind of reminds us of some of the things that we're trying to protect throughout our county.
Thank you. Last question, just because, like today I got here at 11:30 and it's 9 o'clock. Tomorrow I'll be at a baseball game in Aberdeen. On the Saturday, I'll be at opening day for the Miracle League. The hours are odd for county council, and they can involve inconvenient times for home life, for work life. I take unpaid time off from my day job to do certain things. How will you build your life structurally to ensure you're able to do the job as your district needs and deserves?
So when I submitted my application for this position, I've obviously notified my husband, my parents, and then I notified the executive of my agency, who has been nothing but supportive. Prior to taking the role that I currently have, I was a contractor, and they very much trust me to be able to do what I need to do and carry on. They know how active I am in the community. I'm currently the chair of the Women's Commission. I'm on the PAB. I'm on the Family Advisory Board for the Harford County Public Schools. And I'm already fully aware that I will have to prioritize this role over some of the other obligations and responsibilities that I have. Luckily, I have a really tremendous village who not only supports me, but understands the importance of public service. And so I feel very fortunate in that not only is my time management skills top-notch, but I have the full flexibility and support behind me.
Thank you.
I'm retired. I'm looking for things to do. I want to come out and help. So, now, I also have a small part-time company, and I do some construction work. But in the past, and even recently, I've gotten phone calls, hey, I need you to help me do this job or whatever. And I've turned around and looked at my clock and just simply said, I'm rolling over and going back to bed. But with this type of a job here, this is something I look forward to. And this is an item that I want to put my time and effort. I know we're stepping into a position that's almost halfway or over halfway through its term. And there's a lot of catch up to do. We're going to be spending a lot of hours here, probably in the average of 40 to 60 hours a week, just to get caught up for the first stages of this. I have that time, and I'm looking forward to spending that time. Not just to get away from my wife, that's simple, but actually, no, I prefer her, and I'm keeping her up to par in every part of this, but
You
I'd
better
love to
stop
be able
now.
to be here.
I think you better stop now.
Okay. I think she's watching, that's why I had to say that. So, no, I'm looking forward to putting all the time I have available, which is pretty much every hour of the day. And I have no problem with coming in and spending extra hours.
Great, so you have hit my weakness. So originally, I did not understand the full commitment. I thought this was truly part-time. But just as Russ has stated, it is going to be closer to 40 hours. And just listening to some of the things that the council does business on, I'm a little bit of a slower reader, it'll probably take me longer. So with those challenges, and also for my employer, we weren't going to be allowed to use, I wouldn't be allowed to use flex time for council business. I would have to actually use PTO. And the other complication is our PTO can only be used in half-day increments, which means a 10-minute meeting for council business would cost me half a day. So there were just a couple of those things that were a little bit difficult. And then likewise, I understood the recusal requirements for the council, but there were also some additional ones for my employer. So as I said, there are some challenges there.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Mr. Jandrodetta?
Good evening, everybody. So what do you see as the future for Falston development in 152 corridor, Route 1 corridor? So whoever wants to answer first, go ahead.
I'll chime in. So as someone who has chased cows down Harford Road, I don't recommend it on Bel Air Road. I understand the requests for zoning and redistricting along the business type of corridor. I don't necessarily see the need along 152, but I think each area needs to be focused on differently. I literally drive past the lumberyard every single day, and I understand that they were working to try to change part of their property from agricultural to business. I've never known them to have a farm animal on their property. So in those situations, it may make sense. But I think every single roadway, every single access point, every single property should be evaluated differently.
I haven't chased a cow down the road, but I did chase a pig and my horse, so. Fallston area is going fast, but it needs to look at what it's doing. She has talked before about housing. Housing in the Fallston area is very expensive. My son is looking for a house in Harford County right now, and he's been basically getting an eye-opener as far as sticker shock on some of the houses. He's actually looking further north now, going up, looking into Mr. Rowley's district up in Dublin-Darlington area. The housing up there is a little bit less expensive, but it's affordable, and he's trying to find it. Even with his income, it's still hard to find a house of that nature. It'd be nice to see Fallston look into, as a community, to try and put in housing that would benefit our youth. We have young kids coming out of college that are getting jobs that don't have as much money as an established individual or basically a married family where two incomes coming in. There's not a whole lot available for our youth coming in and buying houses. So we have to look at something or some way that Fallston can grow to challenge and give these kids something new to look forward to. At the same time, bringing in the roadways that we need to get these kids to these houses. If you've ever traveled Mountain Road or 24 or 22 at peak rush hour of 3 to basically 5:30 p.m., you don't go above 10, 15, 20 miles an hour if you're lucky. So getting home takes a long time. We have to establish everything we can from infrastructure, like I stated before, to putting in something that will be great for our kids in the future with affordable housing of one nature or another, and try and keep the density of those houses down to a minimum.
Great, well, thank you. So around the Route 1 corridor, there are parts of it that I believe need to be perhaps redeveloped. There do seem to be some spaces that are empty or not fully utilized or maximized for development purposes. I'd be more supportive of seeing that corridor perhaps redeveloped and maximizing the space and the usages there. For 152, I do agree that it does feel, especially with now most people returning to work in person, there is a lot of traffic on Route 152, and the state just, all that infrastructure was just built along 95 to increase the density there. It just seems like there will be more traffic coming up Route 152. So I believe that there might be some possibilities for some smart growth. When you look at certain parts of Mountain Road or 152, you can see just by the placements of where the utility poles are that the roads are intended to be much wider, perhaps even double the width that they are now. So I just feel like that what that tells me is that in the future there is going to be growth, but the trick to it or the key to it is to make sure that we have smart growth and we make sure that anything that develops, that we maximize the community to the benefit in terms of infrastructure, in terms of amenities, in terms of support for the lifestyle of the community.
And one more question. You all were asked a question if you would run again. Two of you have two answered yes, one answered no.
So obviously the position has been it was up in the air for a long time, and it still seems to be up in the air. So originally I answered to be determined. But as I shared during my meeting with the Central Committee, I will do whatever my district needs me to do.
I've had the opportunity to run for several positions in our government. As I stated in my opening speech, I didn't walk away with a winning ticket. However, this position is giving me an opportunity to serve my community much deeper. And I have a pleasure of being able to go ahead and run again and possibly put in as many as 14 years in this position if the community wants me or keeps me.
So again, I originally said yes, that I would run in 2026. But again, I would have to amend that given that I do not see myself being able to do this as a quote-unquote part-time position.
Anyone else? So let me thank you all for being here this evening. Mr. McBride, I want to thank you for sending us 3 outstanding candidates. And we will bring this forward this next Tuesday night in a special legislative session, and look forward to seeing you there. Thank you. Ms. Dixon, do we have anyone signed up to speak this evening?
We do, Mr. President. We have 4 this evening.
I'm going to call your first speaker.
Lauren Heiser, followed by Aaron Matsky.
I don't see Ms. Heiser.
Aaron Matsky.
Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Aaron Madsky. Address is 1807 Harbinger Trail, Edgewood, Maryland 21040. The Humane Society of Harford County is a private entity responsible for running our county animal shelter. The organization has yet to share fiscal year 2023 financial data despite several public requests. I'm here today to inquire as to why construction was halted on the 4,000 square foot training facility paid for by $250,000 of Maryland bond funds. The structure has been vacant for several months and remains unfinished. The crux of what I'm looking to get information on is who in our county is responsible for the financial oversight of the Humane Society, and so that we can get more information regarding this. Many are asking on social media for accountability and transparency, but are being met with silence. Please look into this situation and inform the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maskey. Mr. Overbay is sitting right here. I'm sure he's going to get your information, and he will respond to you immediately, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Denise Favino, followed by Gina Krieger.
Good evening, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Denise Favino. I live at 3536 Scarborough Road, Street, Maryland, 21154. I have been a volunteer at the Harford County Humane Society for the last 10 years. They terminated me last Wednesday, April 9th, because I spoke up for animals. Since I have been volunteering, I have been under the direction of 4 different directors. I was a blue level volunteer, which meant I could walk most dogs, except for staff-only dogs. I have fostered, bathed, groomed, walked, cleaned kennels, and did off-site events for them. These are my concerns based on my own observations at the Harford County shelter. They have guillotine doors on the kennels that are broken. In the winter, when it is freezing outside, the dogs' water bowls freeze and they can't drink water. To me, this is neglect and cruel. Since October 14th, there have been 14 dogs and 1 cat euthanized. Dogs and cats are being euthanized without legitimate cause. Also, there's not enough food or exercise for dogs, particularly on holidays when they are left alone for up to 19 hours. Puppies have been brought in from out of state for adoption, while our own dogs are sitting there waiting for their forever homes. Stray cats and dogs are not being properly evaluated by staff in an efficient manner. 4 paid employees were terminated in the past few months because they spoke up for animals. 2 employees recently quit because they know they were being targeted, and they were next because they were speaking up for the animals. 2 volunteers, in addition to me, were also terminated for advocating for the animals. As a result, many volunteers have stopped coming to the shelter altogether. They could not stand by and watch the inhumane treatment of animals and humans. The recent trend of bullying and unnecessary killing has to stop. Management needs to change. Who is accountable? Where is the oversight from the board? Where is the oversight from the county? We can and must do better. Our community needs your help. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
There are no more speakers, Mr. President.
All right. No more speakers. We'll move on to 16 business from council members. Ms. Robert?
Good evening. Since our last meeting, I met with all three prospective candidates for District B seat. Didn't ask any questions because I had full-fledged interviews with them and got to know them very well. On Thursday, April 10th, I attended with a lot of others here the client's 100th anniversary grocery sweep, so it's very interesting to watch that individual get enough meat and shrimp to provide a donation to the Harford Community Action Agency in the amount of $1,200. Also on April 10th, I was a panelist on Facing Addiction in Harford County, which was a community discussion at the Havre de Grace Cultural Center and Opera House, and that will be aired on television in May, but my understanding is that there's somewhere online you can find it now, because my husband found it and I still haven't watched it yet. But that was a great experience, and I definitely suggest everyone watch it. The keynote speaker was phenomenal, who has apparently a 400-page book showing his experiences through substance abuse. And then I also met with Susquehanna Workforce Network, got to know a little bit more about what their agency does, and did not know they did youth and teenagers and help them with getting a lot of the jobs as well, so that was great to get to know. And on Saturday, April 12th, I attended the Susquehanna Hose Company's annual awards and dinner banquet. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robert. Mr. Giangiordano?
Thank you, Council President. So, April 9th did the Bel Air Auto Auction, the 8th anniversary. Want to thank the Nichols family. They always have a fabulous event, very well attended. Food's always great, but we're just glad we have them in Harford County. It's a phenomenal facility. I can't remember how many bays they have, 18, 15? 18 bays that run the cars through, so certainly employs a lot of people in Harford County, so appreciate that. In my district, the Festival at Bel Air, we did the Klein's Family 100th year anniversary grocery sweep, like Councilwoman Roberts said, so that was a nice program. And then finally, well, actually not finally, but we reached out on the Patriot program to a bunch of different schools. We've heard that a lot of them have done it internally with their students. There's not a big Patriot program going on like there has been in the years past, so definitely disappointed about that. And finally, I want to thank my big brother showed up today because his parents are in a hospital, so I want to give a shout out to Marty Hawk, my big brother, for coming to council meeting and watching me in person. So thanks, buddy. See you back there in the corner. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Giangiordano. Mr. Riley?
Marty, you got to find better things to do, brother. I also want to congratulate the Nichols on their 78th anniversary and the Kleins on their 100th anniversary. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Ms. Sottles?
Thank you, Council President. Today is Purple Up Day, a time to honor the strength and resilience of military-connected children. These young people face unique challenges, and wearing purple is our way of showing them that we see their sacrifices and we support them. And upcoming, I wanted to make everyone aware of the Churchville-Cresswell Fountain Green Community Advisory Board meeting. It's Thursday at 6:30 at the Churchville Rec Center on Level Road. And there will also be a public meeting to discuss the 2022 comprehensive plan for the city of Aberdeen. And that will be held on Wednesday, April 23rd at 7 p.m. at the Aberdeen City Council chambers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sottles. Mr. Bennett?
Hello, it's good to be with everyone this evening. First, I want to just thank again the candidates who came this evening. They are all incredibly impressive, and I'm just glad to know that we got 3 good choices to make, so there will be no wrong choice next week. I got to meet with a retired corrections officer to learn more about Harford County Corrections, which was a really great opportunity. I was very open with him. Corrections is something that's a blind spot for me. I don't know about that work, and unlike our deputies who are out on the street, corrections is not very public facing. So as long as you make good choices, you don't see them very often. So it was really, really impactful to sit down and talk for a little over an hour and hear about his life's work, and to hear about the unique needs and opportunities and roles that come from being in corrections. That was great. I also went out with Steve Walsh from DPW to tour the James Run neighborhood. They have a unique issue there where it's a brand new neighborhood, brand new sidewalks, and the tops of them are just disintegrating off. And so trying to figure out why that's happening and whose responsibility is it to take care of that. And also in conversation with DPW is trying to pinpoint, is there a pattern for a certain type of cement mix that's causing this, a certain company that's spreading the cement, to make sure that we can mitigate future harm in other housing developments. And then I also attended the Susquehanna Hose Company Awards Banquet with Council President Vincenti and Councilwoman Robert. And that's always a great time. I'm very proud to have Susquehanna Hose Company in my district, that I can walk to 4 of their houses from my house. And when it comes to fire and public safety, I know if Scott Hurst reach out and says they need something, it's my job to get them something. And so I'm very thankful for the work that they do. Last, I just want to recognize that today is Jackie Robinson Day, and locally we'll be celebrating tomorrow at the Aberdeen High School baseball game at 6 p.m. And all the kids, thanks to our Parks and Rec department, will be wearing their own Jackie Robinson hat in recognition of Jackie Robinson and his contribution to not just baseball, but civil rights in our nation. And a huge thank you to Parks and Rec for their work in making that come together. But also thank you to the high schoolers who first reached out a year ago and said, Jackie Robinson Day has never been celebrated in my entire life of playing baseball, and I don't know why. And so we worked together and made it happen last year. The student who reached out last year graduated, but then his classmates reached out and said, we want to keep doing this. We don't want it to end just because our classmate graduated. So I just think that's really special. And a lot of the things I shared tonight show the power of reaching out to your elected official. We're not a million miles away. If you call, we actually answer. If you email, we actually respond. So I just think that's a good reminder to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. 15, business from the president. We did receive the budget actually late yesterday, which was a day early. Thank you. We did receive all of our work booklets today. So it's my job one more time to advertise our budget work session schedule. It's Wednesday, April 23rd, Thursday, April 24th, Monday, April 28th, and Tuesday, April 29th. At 9 a.m. most days, except for the 28th, that's at 10 a.m. And the budget public hearings will be Wednesday, May 7th, and Thursday, May 15th at 7 p.m. And again, as you heard from other council members, we had several events this past week. The couple that I'd like to highlight, one is the Public Service Commission's public hearing up in North Harford High School. Councilman Riley was there with me. And we were able to listen to citizens' concerns, BGE representatives, with some of the transmission and production of energy that's scheduled to impact many of our property owners. Ms. Heiser was probably going to be here tonight to speak to that because she spoke very eloquently up at North Harford. Also, I went to and attended the North Harford Elementary School Ag Night that was put on by the Harford County Farm Bureau. They did an outstanding job, and I mean there were hundreds and hundreds of people there. It was a very, very outstanding evening for young folks to understand not only how to mix feed for livestock, but all aspects of the ag community. My wife Jeannie attended the Taste of Aberdeen for me because I was other places. She said it was an outstanding event at the wetlands. I had an opportunity to go to the Manor races at My Lady's Manor Saturday. Even though it was a little soggy, it was still an outstanding event, first time I'd ever been. Mr. Bennett mentioned the Susquehanna Hose Company banquet, and as like all of our first responders, but especially the hose company, they respond to events, fires, accidents, anything, not only just in the Havre de Grace city limits, but they respond all across this county when needed, as well as Bel Air and other companies too. But I want to close my comments tonight in reference to yesterday morning as I was coming from Aberdeen, unexpected, I came along a severe and horrific motor vehicle accident and was there long before any of our first responders, long before our law enforcement. And I want to recognize and commend the citizens that left their vehicles, left their homes, and got out and helped remove this family from the vehicle. I want to commend our first responders for when they did show. We live in an amazing community, we truly do. And these guys, even though we recognize them, they don't get enough credit, I have to tell you. But the citizens, for me, I mean, because they were there first, the fact that they responded as quickly as they did, they need to be recognized, and I want to thank them personally. I want to send my heartfelt thoughts out and prayers for the Lingenfelder family, and hope that this ends better than we think we did. There were 7 patients in this accident. One passed away on site. One was airflown to shock trauma. 2 small children were sent to Johns Hopkins, and the others to local facilities. So it was just a terrible, terrible, horrific event. But again, thanks to all those that responded. And with that, we'll close this meeting. Thank you.